The story of Dexter Morgan has always been about survival, secrets, and shadows. But just when fans thought his journey had ended for good, the finale of Dexter, New Blood, cracked open a door many never expected to see again. Could Dexter truly be gone? Or was his so-called ending just another layer of deception? Beneath the surface of that final episode lies a maze of hidden clues, symbolic choices, and unanswered questions, hints that suggest the world of Dexter may not have closed, but rather shifted into something new, darker, and far more unpredictable. The finale of Dexter, New Blood, was a storm of emotions, filled with betrayal, confessions, and the ultimate confrontation between father and son. On the surface, it seemed final. Harrison, carrying the weight of anger and confusion, made a choice that changed everything. He pulled the trigger on Dexter. In that moment, audiences across the globe gasped, believing that the story had finally ended in blood as it began. But if you look closer, the scene doesn't read like a closed chapter. It reads like a carefully constructed puzzle. Let's start with the most obvious detail: Dexter's death itself. The camera lingers on Harrison, not Dexter. Unlike so many other television deaths, the audience never sees a traditional closure, no funeral, no body being lowered into the ground, no full confirmation that Dexter's story has reached its last breath. Instead, the episode leaves the weight on Harrison's shoulders, almost as if the focus had shifted intentionally, pulling attention away from Dexter's final state. This absence of closure plants the first seed of doubt. Was Dexter's death truly the end, or just the beginning of a new kind of story? Another subtle but important clue comes from the showrunner's own interviews. Clyde Phillips, the creative mind behind New Blood, hinted that Dexter's world was far from over. He admitted that Harrison's journey is only beginning, but the way he phrased it left room for speculation. Could Dexter reappear not in flesh, but in Harrison's mind, just as Deborah appeared to Dexter as a guiding voice throughout the series? Imagine Dexter returning as the dark passenger to Harrison, whispering, taunting, and shaping his every move. That alone changes the meaning of Dexter's so-called ending. It isn't a clean cut. It's a transfer of legacy. There's also the matter of symbolism. When Dexter faces Harrison in that final scene, his words are more confession than farewell. He admits he deserves to die. But consider this: Dexter has died before. In the original series finale, he faked his death, disappearing into the storm and re-emerging as a lumberjack. Death for Dexter has always been symbolic, a mask he wears to reset his life. What if this ending is another mask and illusion crafted not for Harrison but for the audience? After all, the series has always thrived on deception, forcing viewers to question what's real and what's part of Dexter's twisted narrative, the Town of Iron. Lake also plays a role in this mystery. Angela, the chief of police, was left holding the truth of Dexter's crimes, but her reaction raised more questions than answers. She covered for Harrison, redirecting suspicion elsewhere, and then let him go. Why would a seasoned cop allow such a clean escape unless there was more at play? Could Angela herself have doubts about Dexter's death? Or perhaps she sees Dexter's influence continuing through Harrison and wants no part in stopping it. This deliberate silence adds another layer of ambiguity, one that keeps the possibility of Dexter's resurrection alive. And then there's the theme of legacy. The finale wasn't just about ending Dexter's life. It was about passing his curse, his code, and his secrets to the next generation. Harrison isn't free of Dexter, he's haunted by him. Every choice he makes will carry Dexter's shadow, whether through guilt, memory, or temptation. The writers made sure to leave that thread dangling, reminding fans that the real ending isn't in Dexter's body falling, but in the question of what lives on inside Harrison. In many ways, Dexter's story has just shifted forms. He may not walk in the flesh, but his presence, his teachings, and his sins are far from gone. Finally, one cannot ignore the audience's reaction. The ending sparked debates, arguments, and fan theories across social media. Some called it justice. Others called it betrayal. But here's the truth: a show that stirs such a response rarely leaves the stage for good. Television thrives on unfinished business, and New Blood left more than enough threads hanging. Dexter's death wasn't a resolution. It was a spark designed to ignite speculation, keep fans hungry, and pave the way for something more. So when you rewatch that finale with this perspective, it no longer feels like an ending. It feels like a setup for resurrection, not in the literal sense of Dexter rising from the grave, but in the many ways his character can return: through Harrison's mind, through flashbacks, through secrets buried deep in Iron Lake, and maybe, just maybe, through another twist that no one saw coming. Asterisk, if the ending of Dexter, New Blood left fans shocked, then the possibility of a season 2 raises even bigger questions. Because when you strip the finale down to its bones, it doesn't read like a full stop. It reads like a comma, a pause before the next chapter begins. And that chapter, if it belongs to Harrison, the most obvious path for a second season is Harrison stepping fully into his father's shoes. The series already planted the seeds of this transformation. Remember, Harrison has shown the same violent instincts that haunted Dexter since childhood. From the wrestling incident at school to the almost eerie calm he displayed after killing, Harrison is already carrying the dark passenger. The finale wasn't just about freeing him from Dexter, it was about handing him Dexter's code, the twisted set of rules meant to control chaos. Imagine season 2 opening with Harrison on the road, code in hand, wrestling with whether he should become exactly what his father feared, a killer shaped by a legacy of blood. But season 2 doesn't have to be predictable. The writers could explore multiple directions, each more dangerous than the last. One possibility is Dexter's return, not alive in the traditional sense, but as a haunting presence. Just as Deborah appeared to Dexter throughout New Blood, Dexter could become Harrison's ghost, his mentor, and his tormentor. Picture this: Harrison, sitting alone in a motel room, staring at the code his father left behind. Then, in the corner of his vision, Dexter appears. Not as a memory, not as a dream, but as a full-blown manifestation of the dark passenger. He could guide Harrison, argue with him, even manipulate him from beyond the grave. This approach would keep Michael C. Hall in the series, without undoing the weight of the finale. Another path involves Iron Lake itself. Angela, the only one who truly knows what happened, is sitting on a mountain of secrets. If season 2 follows Harrison, it's impossible to imagine Angela won't resurface. Will she chase him down? Will guilt drive her to expose him? Or will she protect him, believing that Harrison deserves a second chance, unlike Dexter? Her role could become one of the most fascinating threads, caught between her duty as a cop and her heart as someone who cared for both Dexter and Harrison. And let's not forget Batista. His return in New Blood was no coincidence. The writers wouldn't bring back such a crucial figure only to drop him. Batista now knows Dexter was alive all along, and if he digs deeper, he could uncover the truth about Iron Lake. Imagine Batista traveling north, piecing together the aftermath and realizing that Harrison is missing. That storyline alone could connect the original series with New Blood in a way fans have always wanted, closing old wounds while opening new ones. There's also the possibility of new killers entering the scene. Dexter's world has always been filled with predators hiding in plain sight. With Harrison potentially on his own, season 2 could introduce a rival, someone who challenges Harrison's fragile grip on morality. Perhaps another dark passenger, older and more experienced, who sees Harrison as either a threat or a protege. That clash could drive the entire season, forcing Harrison to either embrace his father's legacy or break free from it entirely, but the most intriguing possibility. Season 2 could blur the line between savior and monster even more. Harrison isn't Dexter. He grew up with a different kind of trauma, a different kind of upbringing. Unlike Dexter, he has the memory of being abandoned, of losing his mother, and of seeing his father's true self revealed. These scars might push him to create his own code, one harsher, less forgiving, more emotional. If Dexter's code was about balance and survival, Harrison's could be about vengeance and anger. That difference would set up a chilling contrast between father and son, even if Dexter only appears as a voice inside Harrison's head. And here's where things get truly interesting. Showtime has already teased that New Blood was never meant to be the absolute end, but the start of a larger franchise. The showrunner has hinted at exploring Dexter's universe beyond Dexter himself. A season 2 centered on Harrison would not only continue the story but expand it, giving fans a fresh perspective on the psychology of the dark passenger. Instead of repeating Dexter's arc, the show could explore the terrifying question: what happens when the legacy of a serial killer doesn't end, but evolves? So while the finale gave us an image of closure, the reality is much different. There are too many open doors, too many characters left unresolved, too many mysteries buried in the snow of Iron Lake. Harrison's road trip was not an escape, it was the start of a journey into darkness, temptation, and destiny. And whether Dexter returns as a ghost, a memory, or even something more shocking, his presence will never leave. Because Dexter Morgan is more than just a character, he's an idea. And ideas don't die. They live on in whispers and codes and passengers that never let go. Season 2 isn't just a possibility. It feels inevitable. The real question is not if Dexter's world will return, but how. Will it be Harrison's story of redemption, or his descent into the same shadows his father embraced? Will we see the rise of a new monster or the rebirth of the old one? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain: the story of Dexter is far from finished. Asterisk television history has shown us one simple truth: stories that seem to end often find new life in the most unexpected ways. Dexter, New Blood is no exception. When we look at how other iconic shows have continued beyond their supposed finales, it becomes clear that Dexter's world has every reason to grow, twist, and reshape itself. To understand what might come next, we need to step back and compare, because sometimes the future of a story is hidden in the patterns of others that came before it. Take Breaking Bad, for example. When Walter White's story ended in blood and chaos, many believed that was the final chapter. Yet out of that ending came Better Call Saul, a prequel that expanded the universe in ways nobody saw coming. It didn't just rehash Walter's story. It redefined it by showing the world through a different set of eyes. The lesson here is powerful. An ending doesn't kill a universe, it creates new entry points. Could Harrison be to Dexter what Saul Goodman was to Walter White? A new perspective, a fresh narrative lens, yet forever tied to the original heartbeat of the show. Or consider The Walking Dead, its main series wrapped, but its spin-offs ensured the franchise lived on. Each spin-off didn't try to copy the same formula, it carved out its own identity. Some focused on survival, others on intimate character journeys. If Showtime follows that model, Dexter, New Blood could branch into more than just Harrison's path. We could see explorations of Angela wrestling with the aftermath, Batista hunting for answers, or even glimpses into Dexter's past cases that ripple into the present. In this sense, Season 2 wouldn't just be a continuation, it could be the first step into a shared Dexterverse where stories interlock, collide, and keep fans hooked for years. But broader theories about Dexter's resurrection go even further. Some fans speculate that his survival might not require physical presence at all. Television has a way of bending the rules of death when it serves the narrative. Ghosts, hallucinations, dreams, and flashbacks are powerful tools. Just look at Hamlet, where the ghost of the father drives the entire play. Or Mr. Robot, where hallucinations blurred the line between reality and imagination. If Harrison carries Dexter as a constant presence in his mind, then Dexter is, in many ways, more alive than ever. Imagine whole scenes where Harrison debates with Dexter's voice, the two arguing morality, vengeance, and control. That setup would keep Michael C. Hall in the narrative while allowing the show to evolve into something psychological and haunting. Another fascinating comparison lies in Hannibal. That series thrived not by focusing on gore, but by digging into the complex psychology of predator and prey. Dexter has always shared that DNA. It's less about the kill and more about the why. A second season could take inspiration from this and shift its focus from action-driven plots to deeper explorations of Harrison's morality. What does it mean to inherit darkness? Can evil be genetic? Can a code really tame something as destructive as the urge to kill? These are questions that resonate beyond the show. They cut into human fears of legacy, identity, and destiny. And then there's the theory of resurrection in a more literal sense. Fans whisper about the possibility that Dexter's death was staged, just as it was in the original series finale. After all, New Blood avoided showing us definitive closure. Could the writers be setting up another twist where Dexter faked his death to protect Harrison, only to re-emerge in Season 2? It may sound extreme, but remember, television thrives on shock value. If audiences debated his lumberjack death for nearly a decade, imagine the uproar if he returned once more, scarred but alive, to reclaim the role of teacher or even rival to his own son. The real brilliance of New Blood is how it balanced closure with possibility. It gave fans enough of an ending to feel complete, but it also scattered seeds for theories to grow. The shift from Dexter to Harrison mirrors generational storytelling we've seen in other franchises, from Star Wars passing the torch to a new generation of heroes, to Cobra Kai reviving the Karate Kid legacy through the eyes of students. Legacy isn't about replacing, it's about reflecting, twisting, and expanding. Harrison doesn't need to be Dexter's copy. He needs to be his mirror, his contrast, his evolution. This brings us to perhaps the boldest theory. What if Season 2 doesn't just follow Harrison, but splits into dual narratives, past and present? One half showing Harrison's descent into darkness, the other half revisiting Dexter's early years, cases, and choices that shaped him. In this way, father and son stories could run parallel, showing how history repeats itself or how it finally breaks. This structure could elevate the show from a simple continuation into a meditation on fate versus free will. At the end of the day, comparisons to other shows and fan theories all point to the same conclusion. Dexter's world is far too rich to vanish into silence. Whether through Harrison's struggles, Dexter's spectral presence, or the expansion of side characters into full arcs, the story has endless ways to resurrect itself. Because Dexter has never really been about death. It's been about survival, transformation, and the terrifying question of whether we can ever truly escape the darkness we inherit. So where does this leave us? The finale of Dexter, New Blood, wasn't just an ending. It was a mirror reflecting closure for some and endless possibilities for others. On the surface, Dexter's death may look final, but the cracks in that conclusion are too deliberate, too intentional. The writers didn't just close a door, they left it slightly ajar, inviting us to peer through and imagine what lies beyond. Harrison, driving away into the unknown, isn't a symbol of closure. He's a symbol of continuation. Every mile he travels, every choice he makes, carries the shadow of his father. And whether Dexter returns as a memory, a ghostly passenger, or even in a shocking physical twist, one thing is certain. His presence will haunt every frame of the story that comes next. Because Dexter Morgan isn't simply a man, he's a legacy. And legacies don't die. They evolve, they spread, and they take new forms in those left behind. But the real power of Dexter lies not just in what the writers show us, it lies in what they leave unsaid. The unanswered questions, the hidden details, the subtle choices that make fans argue, theorize, and debate for years. That's the secret to Resurrection. Not the literal return of a character, but the way a story keeps breathing in the minds of those who refuse to let it end. And that's exactly where we stand now, caught between a finale and a beginning, between death and rebirth, between silence and speculation. This is why Season 2 doesn't feel like a stretch, it feels like a natural step. A new chapter that could explore Harrison's descent, Angela's silence, Batista's suspicions, or Dexter's haunting presence. A story not of endings, but of echoes. Echoes of blood, of legacy, of choices that refuse to fade. And if television history has taught us anything, it's that echoes have a way of turning into voices, and voices have a way of becoming entire stories once again. Now the question turns to you. Do you believe Dexter's death was truly final, or do you see the cracks in the ending as a setup for something more? Will Harrison embrace the darkness, or will he fight it? Will Dexter's ghost become his guide or his curse? Every theory matters because Dexter has always been a dialogue, a twisted conversation between the show and its audience. So share your thoughts. What's your theory for Season 2? Do you see Harrison as the new monster, or as a victim of his father's shadow? Could Dexter himself return, or has his resurrection already begun in the mind of his son? Drop your predictions in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. And if you want to keep peeling back the layers of Dexter's world, hit subscribe, because the journey is far from over. This story may have ended in blood, but the truth is simple. Endings are only beginnings in disguise. And for Dexter Morgan, the beginning of his resurrection may be closer than we think.